All right, and welcome to this Sunday morning. And so let's come on to our block, and we will do the block under the sacrum. So, here we are, coming down to the floor. Take a moment, letting yourself melt into the floor, and then sliding that block under the legs, a little lift up, slide the block under the back of the pelvis, under the sacrum, sliding those legs out to straight, big yawn in the front of those hip joints. And you can do a push on the block there, getting a little bit more length in the lower back. Nice deep breath up into that lower abdomen and exhale, pouring off, melting over the block. All right, and let's bring those arms down alongside. Give the shoulders a little roll under, a little reach through the fingertips, just gently cooperating with the block. And feeling your breath. And then let's send that breath pouring down through the fingertips there. Breathing the arms up overhead, stretching long there. And then inhale and exhale, breathing those arms back down alongside. And we will do that twice more. Breathing the arms up overhead, linger a moment. And reaching down. And once more. And reaching forward. And then let's bend that right leg, hinging the right leg up. So you can just hold the leg here, or maybe one or both hands on the knee. Inhale and exhale, long line from that right knee out the left heel. And then lengthening that right leg out again. Take a breath. And we'll hinge the left leg in. Reaching long from the left knee to the right ankle, reaching long through the top of the head and out the right heel. And then extending that left leg out, both legs long again. Take another couple breaths here. And then we will bend the knees, lifting up off that block, rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor, landing a little more on the floor. And then we will come up to sitting. And we will sit in Sukhasana, the crossed legs. Give a little length and up, and let's come forward right away. Tilting forward, and then reaching out with the arms. Inhaling and exhaling, breathing into the lower back and across the outer hips. And then we will come up, unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae back up on top of the sitting bones. Everything lands in place. Inhaling and exhaling. And then changing the cross of the legs and finding that place again that we just were. After we rolled up, everything dropped in place, long and spacious spine. And then reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Inhale and exhale, breathing those arms up, lengthen a little up through that lower waist a little more, and breathing those arms down. Let's do that twice more. Maybe it's not the lower waist that feels a little less lengthened in your body, but some other part along the side. So sort of looking for that, not just going for the same old that extends easily. What part needs a little more attention? Let's do that once more. And bringing those arms down, and let's extend the legs straight out in front in Dandasana. Taking a little forward bend, opening up the backs of the legs along the floor. And let's see, I'll be the mirror for the moment. Let's bend that right leg and cross the right foot over the left. Keep reaching long through that left leg, right foot into the floor, long through the top of the head, and let's twist to the right. Inhale, making lots of space, exhale, and twist. And then really feel that right leg coming up and over, almost with a wrap around to the left. And coming back to the front, and then let's bend that left leg in. So we're in that, say, Andrasana, or you can keep it straight if your knee doesn't want to be bent in there. And we will twist to the left. And then walking the hands out to the left side. Negotiating with that right sitting bone, finding a good spot for yourself. And then coming up, extending the legs out in front again, a little reach through the heels and reach through the top of the head. And then we will bend the left leg. Crossing that left foot over, standing on the left foot, left knee to the ceiling. Keep reaching long through that right leg, long through the top of the head, and we'll twist left. Inhale, lots of space, exhale and twist. Feeling that left leg wrapping around to the right as you twist left. And coming back to the front, and we will bend that right leg into Matsyendrasana or not. And then twisting to the right. Inhale, lots of space, exhale and twist. And walking the hands out to the right side, negotiating with that left sitting bone. And then settling in somewhere, breathing deeply. And coming up, disentangle the legs, stretch them out in front. We'll come forward for a few breaths. And then coming up, and let's come up and downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And also, if you do have a block or blocks, having them kind of up near the front of the mat where you might want them later. And then expanding up and downward facing dog. And walking the dog or anything else you want to do. And then if you haven't yet, checking what those hands are doing, middle finger straight forward or a little diagonal, space between the fingers, but not straining them out, and keeping the base of that index finger and base of the thumb pressed into the floor so you're not making little tent hands. And then finding the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment, nothing moving but the breath. And let's lift our right leg up already, reaching long through the heel. So not worrying about how much lift that right leg has at this moment. Just reach long. And then a big inhale and exhale through to the lunge. Long line from the top of the head out the left heel. A little bit more long line, a little stronger in the left leg. And then bringing that left knee down, coming up in a Jayasana, the kneeling lunge. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then let's do the cactus pull here, pulling those elbows down, squeezing the shoulder blades into the upper back, And extending back up twice more. And then namaste in front and into the floor. Really feel that left leg straightening, reaching through the heel, stepping back to the plank, holding that plank long and flat against the ceiling, trying to get that right leg to extend and work just as much as the left. And then we will knees, chest, chin, Asana Namaskar to the floor, bringing the knees down, big arch in the lower back, pulling the upper chest forward and down, and sliding out to the small cobra, squeezing those elbows back, and rolling down. Two more small cobras, really working the upper back muscles, keeping those legs extending. And then making your way back up to downward facing dog. And you can always put in a going through the traditional vinyasa here if you like, or else here we are in downward facing dog, taking a couple deep breaths. And let's lift the left leg up, reaching long through the heel. Finding what this three-legged dog is for you at this moment. And a big inhale and exhale through to the lunge. Really lengthen out through that right heel, making that right leg really long and straight. And then a little bit more. And bringing the right knee down. Coming up in Anjayasana, the kneeling lunge. And then cactus those arms, working the upper back and extending back up. Twice more. And namaste in front. Namaste into the floor. Straighten up that right leg. Stepping back to the plank, reaching long and strong through both legs. And we'll Asana Namaskar, knees, chest, chin to the floor. And into that small cobra and rolling down. And then let's come up in that small cobra there, not too high though. Working that upper back, squeeze the elbows alongside, reach through both legs. We're going to bend the left knee. Inhale and exhale, bending that left leg in and lengthen it out. Let's do that 3 more times. Left leg. Lifting the upper body a little to meet the heel. And maybe lift a little higher in the upper body and coming down. Deep breath. Getting reorganized. Small cobra in the upper back. And we'll do the right leg. Reach through both legs long, and then that right knee bends and extends. 3 more. And finishing with the bending. Maybe there's a little bit more lift in the upper body. And coming down. And we will peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog. And always an opportunity for another vinyasa here. And then let's look between the hands to jump or step forward. And into the forward bend, but taking your time. We were just contracting the hamstrings with all that leg bending, so they may take a moment to lengthen out again. And then concave back halfway up, folding over, and we will come up to standing into the front body yarn. Big circle around with the arms. And then let's circle those shoulders. 3, 2, 1, other direction. And one more front to the back, interlocking those fingers, lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Coming over, pressing out through the hands. And let's do the twist here. So a little bend in the left knee as we take that left shoulder to the left knee, twisting right. And back to the center. Twisting left by bending the right knee and pulling the hands to the right shoulder to the right knee. And back to the center. Release the hands. And continuing concave back, folding over. And let's see, let's step back with the left leg. And we will come up in the high lunge. And let's twist to the right, arms parallel to the floor. And floating the left hand down to the floor into the twist. And bringing the right hand down. Stepping back to the plank. And then we're going to one-legged plank. So you can do this on all fours, extending your left leg parallel behind, or bringing that left leg up into one-legged plank. So we've lifted our left leg, and then, like we did on the floor, bend that left knee, and extending it out. Let's do that twice more. And then setting that left leg down next to the right and coming down on all fours. We'll Asta Namaskar, knees, chest, chin, smoothly down to the floor, just into the cobra, and then making your way back up to downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up. Dog at the high fire hydrant, opening up that right hip. Then through to the lunge, and we'll come up in the warrior one, grounding that left heel down and coming up. And let's take a circle all the way around with the arms, opening that upper chest even more. And then straightening the front leg, reaching over into Parsvottanasana. Pouring over that right leg, maybe grabbing a block or two. And also adjust your stance, making it a little shorter. Keeping those legs nice and strong. And then just bending that right knee to step forward. Into the concave back. Holding over. Coming up to standing, big front body yawn. And we'll do all of that on the other side. Pressing the arms down, and we'll interlock the fingers behind. Roll the shoulders out. Lifting up to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Coming over. And then twisting left. Bending that right knee, pulling the hands to the right. And back to the center, and twisting to the right, pulling the hands to the left. And back to the center, really let the back of that neck lengthen out. Deep breath. And release the hands. Concave back, folding over. And we will step back with the right leg. And coming up in the high lunge. And let's twist to the left, arms parallel to the floor. And then floating that right hand down into the twist, deepening that twist a little. And bringing that left hand down, stepping back to the plank. So here we go with our one-legged planking. And you can come down on all fours and extend that right leg back instead, or lifting the right leg up, one-legged plank. And then we'll bend that right leg. Inhale and exhale. Twice more. Lengthen out and back. And then finishing with that, setting the right leg down. Asta Namaskar, bringing those knees down. Big arch, flowing down into the floor, swooping up, and then up to downward facing dog. And let's lift our left leg up. And all the way to dog at the high fire hydrant. Through to the lunge. And warrior number 1. Big circle of breath. And circling those arms all the way around. And then straightening that left leg, pouring over Parsvottanasana. Maybe grabbing your blocks or adjusting the distance between the legs as needed, and pouring over that left leg. Nice strong legs. And then lunge to step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Folding over. And a little bend in the knees. And we're going to heel toe our feet out to the diagonal. So they'll be off the mat, and then we're in the elephant rider with those feet out on the diagonal. Pressing the knees open, little scoop under with the tailbone. Maybe a little swinging and shifting in the hips. Pressing to the feet, coming up to the 3-pointed star. Pull those abdominal muscles a little more in and up. And then into the temple pose, pulling the knees wide, resist a moment with the arms, and then the hands come down to namaste in front. And pouring over, straightening up the legs for a couple breaths. And then soften the knees so you can heel toe those feet back into the center. Back to Uttanasana. Deep breath. And coming up. And around to namaste in front. And then let's go to the chair pose. So we'll take a more direct route. Let's see, well, let's come up in the front body, yawn first. And then from there, just pull those hips back, reaching the arms forward. Pull the hips back a little more. Really feeling the outer hip crease pulling back. And you have to really reach forward with the sides of the body to counter that. And coming forward. Lengthening out on the tippy fingers or maybe your block here. And we're going to lift our left leg up into a supported warrior 3. Left leg parallel to the floor. Turn those toes down. And so we're working with that left leg a little like our one-legged plank, when that left leg has to lift and reach without being touching anything. And then really feel that crease of the right hip joint pulling back, especially the outer crease. And then we'll bend the right knee, pulling back in that right crease of the hip joint, almost like you're doing a chair pose. We are kind of doing a chair pose. Keep reaching through the left leg. And let's bend and straighten that left leg. Inhale, press through the heel. Exhale, bending the knee. Inhale, reach. Exhale and bend. We'll do that twice more. Extend that left leg back. And then with great relief, we'll set that knee down. And foot down. Now we'll set the knee down. Coming up in VinyasaSun. Take a little lift up out of that right hip for a moment and then deepen. Bringing the arms down, side bending to the right. And then just reaching around and down the front, straightening that leg, stepping back to the plank through the vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. Breathing here. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, folding over. Utkatasana, the chair pose, pulling back in the hinge of the hips, especially that outer part of the hip. And coming forward. So we're doing the same thing with the other leg that we just did. Coming up on tippy fingers or the block. And we will lengthen that right leg back into a supported warrior three. Right toes facing the floor, right leg parallel to the ceiling. Or it might not be quite that high yet, but not a standing split. We don't want it to go higher. And then really feel that outer crease of that left hip joint pulling back, reaching strongly through that right leg as if we're standing on it in a plank. And then bending that left leg, pulling back in the left crease of the hip joint. So you want to feel a little back rather than like your knee bends you forward. Pulling back. And then bending that right leg. Inhale and exhale. And then three times more. Inhale and exhale. 1 and 2. Finishing with that. Reach a little longer and flatter. Stepping back. Bringing that right knee down. Coming up in VinyasaSun. Give yourself a little lift up higher. And then press into the right hip. And we'll side bend, reach those arms down, side bend over to the left. And swooping around, and this time we'll let that swoop around take us into the elephant rider. So I'm just going to turn around. All right. And here we are, elephant rider. And then coming up in that three-pointed star, pulling the lower abdomen in and pulling wide into the temple pose, hands to namaste. So let's see, I'm not going to be the mirror here since I'm usually not the mirror when we're facing this way. So that would be the front of my mat where my left leg is. Let's straighten up. And turning the feet to parallel. So of course, what will be important is doing one leg and then the other. Bringing those arms out. Let's rotate the right leg. It's probably the leg at the back of the mat. 90 degrees into the warrior two. Dancing warrior. And then straightening up that right leg, pulling up, trying to make space where we were creasing our hip joint. And into the triangle, Trikonasana. Here too, we're pulling back into the hip joint, pulling that outer hip back. One more deep breath here. Coming up. Feet to parallel. And then let's go to the left, also known as the other side. If it's the left, it should be the front of your mat. And into the warrior number two, pulling everything wide and long. And dancing warrior, bringing that left arm up. And then straightening the left leg. See if you can pull up that left hip bone, making a little more space there. Unpulling into that crease of the hip joint. And then as we hinge into the triangle, we're actually doing that pull, especially from the outer hip once again, as we tilt over. And breathing. And then one more deep breath here. Coming back up. Feet to parallel. Big reach up through the arms and we will come forward and over. And then turning to the left lunge, the front of your mats. And we will continue along, stepping back to the plank, vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. Oh, maybe lingering in that up dog, opening that front of the crease of the hip joint there even more. And here we are, downward facing dog, or it could be child's pose, taking a few deep breaths. And let's reach that right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Dog at the high fire hydrant. If you feel like it may be a waterfall to the wild thing. And we'll be going to the warrior number 1 for those who want to get there sooner. And then finishing up with your wild thing through to the lunge, warrior number 1 on the right. And then reaching out on a long diagonal, feeling that long line from the top of the head to that left outer heel. And then we'll shift up to the warrior 3, either balancing or maybe fingertips to the floor or your block. Pulling back in that right outer crease of the hip joint. And then if you're balancing, bringing the fingertips to the floor as we bend that right knee. Reaching long through the left leg, pulling back in the crease of the hip joint. And let's bend that left leg, but keep it bent. And then maybe taking those hands up to namaste and balancing here in the shark. And then just bringing that left leg down next to the right, both knees bent, letting that bend, letting that head hang, the neck relax. Deep breath. Straightening up the legs. Concave back, folding over, and jumping or stepping back, vinyasa or not, downward facing dog. And then we'll do that on the left. Lifting the left leg up. Dog at the high fire hydrant. And water falling to the wild thing or not. And then we'll be making our way to the warrior number 1. Not worrying about what's coming or thinking about, I shouldn't say worry, maybe we're not worried. Just be here in the warrior 1. Reaching long and forward on the diagonal. Here we are now. And then shifting up to the warrior 3, balancing or on the fingertips or on the block. We're pulling back in that left outer hip. And then bending the left knee, fingertips to the floor if you were balancing. Feeling that pull back. And then bending the right leg, reaching the right toes for the ceiling. And maybe bringing the hands up to namaste and balancing in the shark. And then with great relief, bringing that right foot down next to the left, letting that head and the neck release. Extend the legs into the forward bend. And then let's heel toe out, but not all the way out to the elephant rider distance, just to wide malasana. Bending the knees, coming down, wedging those elbows inside. So if you really want to go wider in that elephant rider, or if that's better for your knees, doing that. Here we are, pulling into that crease of the hip joint once more. Trying to really lengthen those sides up and out. And then we will sit down on the floor. Slide those legs out to Konasana, the angle pose. Giving a little lift up from behind. And coming forward. Inhaling into the center, exhale, pouring out like we were doing the wide leg forward bend. And coming up. All right, so I'm going to just switch this way to face you. If you need to adjust on your mat, go ahead so that you have more room. All right, so now I'm going back to being the mirror, as I often am on the floor. So let's bend our right leg in. Reaching long from that right knee out the right heel. And let's twist to the right toward our bent leg. Anchoring that left sitting bone down into the floor. Left hand onto the left leg. And then reaching out and up and over with the right. Parvrita Janu Shirsasana. We reach long through both sides. And coming up. And then that left hand goes to the floor, kind of in a line with the right leg. Depending on how wide this knee is, you might want the right knee to shift forward. I mean, this is the left leg, this is the right arm. And then we're going to just press up. Make little adjustments as needed. As I said, sometimes bringing that right knee a little more in front of you gives you a little more space, a little like a kneeling wild thing. And then sitting yourself back down. And we will switch sides. Bending the left leg. Long through the right heel. The half dragonfly. Yeah, so when we get to that lifting up part at the end, as maybe you've noticed before, the wider apart the legs are, the kind of more awkward and less lift and openness you have, the more our bent leg is to the right angle, a little bit more squared rather than open, the better lift and spaciousness you get in general. But let's twist to the left, because here we are at this moment still on our way to Parvritajanu Shirsasana. And right hand on the right leg, reaching out and up and over. Nice round breaths. Is there a little more reach through that lower right side? And then coming up, left hand to the floor, kind of in line with the right leg or the left hip. Maybe that left knee is going to shift a little forward as you press up into the yoga thingy. So if anyone ever hears a better name for this, I would appreciate it. All right, so kind of adjusting things around, finding the spot for yourself, breathing. And calming down. Extracting that left leg. Take a couple moments in the Konasana, reaching through the heels, coming forward, evening things out. And coming up, bringing those legs in. All right, so let's make our way to the pigeon. And you can fly or just come to the pigeon. And also, if you've been really enjoying these waterfall to the wild things, sort of the shapes, you could take that long road to the pigeon by putting in yet another waterfall to the wild thing. All right, so long road or short road. Short road, just bring your right leg forward here. Long road, coming up in downward facing dog. Deep breath. Lifting the right leg. And dog at the high fire hydrant, bending that right knee. You could go to the pigeon from here, maybe doing that waterfall to the wild thing again. And then we'll all be in the pigeon at some point soon. Taking a few breaths in the cobra action. Forward, up and over. And then coming forward, lengthening out into the sleeping pigeon. And coming up. And then we're going to slide that right leg back behind us into the Sphinx. Elbows under the shoulders. Lengthening forward, reaching back through the legs. And then walking those hands out long and flat. One more sort of sharky thing, bending the leg. So reaching long, bend the left leg. And then we'll take that left hand back to the left ankle. So we're doing the half bow pose here. Pressing that left hand into the left ankle, reaching long from the right fingertips out the right toes. Lengthen to lift, both sides if you can. Calming down. Oh, release that left foot. Deep breath. And then here we go, making our way to the pigeon on the left, the long road, the short road, whatever road you choose. All right, long roaders, here we go, coming up in downward facing dog. In that downward facing dog. Lifting the left leg up, dog at the high fire hydrant. And then maybe waterfalling to the wilds thing. And then we will all be in the pigeon shortly. And taking a few breaths, doing that cobra action, forward, up and over. And then lengthening forward and over into the sleeping pigeon. And then coming up. And we will slide that left leg back into the Sphinx. Lengthening out both sides. And bringing those arms out straight in front. But still feel if you can see if you can feel all that lengthening of the center lines and side lines like we had in the Sphinx. And reaching long through both legs, bending the right leg and right hand to the right ankle as we lift up in the half bow pose. And coming down. Taking a few breaths here in sort of a downward facing Shavasana, melting the sides of the back. And you're taking a little contract of the abdominal muscles up into the spine like you're trying to cat back here. And letting that go. And then let's come up to come back down on our back. Maybe taking a nice slow roll down, really scoop into those abdominal muscles, stretching out the back. And we land on the floor. And let's pull those knees into the chest, knees to the nose. And then sliding the left leg out to straight. Bring that right leg up to more kind of a right angle, standing on the ceiling. Shift the right knee over just past the side of the body, sort of into your armpit. One-legged happy baby. You can hold the ankle, the back of the thigh, maybe the outer foot. Feeling like you're trying to pull that knee down to the floor in your armpit, or if you have a long thigh bone, maybe up by your right shoulder. Inhale and exhale, feeling that right knee heavy toward the floor. And then also that left front of the thigh lengthening out. Breathing nice and long, slowing that breath down if it's still a little fast. And then releasing that right leg. And sliding the right leg out to straight, pulling the left thigh in, bringing that shin up, shift the leg a little to the side, holding on wherever works for you in the half baby with the left leg. Pulling that left knee down. And then feeling that right hip heavy toward the floor, reaching out through the right heel, stretching out the front of the right leg as well. And then finishing with this side, and we'll slide that left leg out. And here we are in Shavasana. Inhale and exhale, dropping right in. And then breathing back into your body, moving the fingers and toes, circling the wrists and the ankles, stretching those arms up overhead, bending the knees. And making your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.